Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into the often messy and complicated world of working with people in organizations, especially in tech.
And our guide for this is pretty unique. It's excerpts from Managing Humans, second edition by Michael Lopp, who's probably better known as Rands.
Right, Rands. And this isn't your typical business textbook, is it?
Not at all. He uses this semi-fictional style, but it's all drawn from 20 plus years of real experience, software development, big Silicon Valley names, Apple, Netscape, Borland, Palantir, you know the ones.
Wow, okay, so battle-tested experience.
Exactly. It's basically his collection of ideas, opinions, lessons learned about managing people, and he's very open about learning from mistakes, too.
Less theory, more, here's what went down.
Pretty much. And the core idea running through it all is, well, it's simple but powerful.
Yeah.
You get rewarded for what you build, sure, but your actual success, that comes down to your people.
Okay, let's unpack that. If it's all about the people, that sounds complex. So our mission here is to pull out the key insights Rands offers. Management, communication, navigating the org chart, figuring out your own place in it all.
Well, he kicks things off with what he calls the absolute basic truth of the book. It sounds simple, almost too simple, but it's fundamental. Don't be a prick.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. But he immediately flags that tension, right?
Yeah.
Like, Silicon Valley seems full of these wildly successful dictators who are successful despite maybe not being the nicest people to work with.
That's exactly the point. Their success often happened despite how they treated people, maybe because of timing or tech genius, not because they were great collaborators. Rands is saying, look, you get to choose. You want real teamwork. You want trust. That's a totally different path.
And he saw this starkly during company ups and downs, like going from we're going to kill Microsoft to, oh crap, we're doomed.
Yeah, he talks about watching managers during those swings. Some who were stars when things were good became total jerks under pressure. Others, maybe quieter ones, actually shone during the panic because they were steady. It really shows your underlying approach.
Adversity reveals character, basically.
It really does. And navigating all that, or just surviving day to day, brings up that big question for everyone. What the hell is actually going on?
Wow.
And, maybe more selfishly, where do I fit into this picture?
Okay, that leads us to the Rands test. The source pitches this as a way to get a handle on those exact questions.
Yeah, it's this 11-point assessment. Covers things like, do you understand how communication flows? What's the actual company strategy? And what about your own career, your trajectory?
But he's clear the number itself isn't the real goal, right? It's not about getting a perfect score.
Exactly. It's the direction, a high score. You probably have a decent grip. But if you're down around 8 to 10, he suggests there are probably some troubling gaps. Communication, strategy, your own path clarity. Below 8. Definitely some problems you need to tackle.
What's powerful is how it makes you face reality. Like, do you really know the strategy? Do you have any idea where your career is going? The action isn't about the score. It's about what you care about, where the gaps are for you.
Totally. It just surfaces those blind spots.
And if you want to know what's going on and connect, well, so much just boils down to communication, doesn't it? Rands really digs into the tools and the pitfalls here.
Absolutely. Let's start with one-on-ones. He puts a huge emphasis on these, sees them as this critical weekly investment in each person on your team.
And he's really specific about what they are not.
Right. They are not status updates, not just rehashing stuff you can find in Jira or somewhere else. Status might, set the scene, but it's not the point.
So what is the point then?
The goal is a conversation with actual substance, something strategic, something valuable for that person. He even shares his tactic. If a one-on-one just turns into updates, he listens extra hard for any little nugget. If nothing comes up after 15 minutes, he pulls out 3 prepared points he brought just in case.
Oh, that's clever. A way to nudge it back on track.
Yeah, it forces the conversation towards something more meaningful.
Okay, then on the flip side, he has this really strong, almost visceral reaction against status reports. He literally asks, why do I feel like I'm performing an unnecessary act?
He hates them. Says they usually start because some exec feels disconnected, but they don't actually solve that. And worse, sending out emailed status reports. He thinks it tells most people doing them, your time isn't valuable because you're forcing them to create text instead of just, talking or looking at existing data.
Okay, switching gears again. Another communication challenge. Mandates. How does he define those?
A mandate for Rands is basically gathering the team and saying calmly, okay, this is how it's going to be. No Q&A, no debate, no collaboration. It's a dictate.
Sounds potentially harsh. Where's the line between effective leadership and just being a dictator?
That's the tricky part. It's so easy for it to sound like, shut up and do it. But a good manager delivers it like, look, this is the decision. This
Hmm.
is the direction. And I'm taking responsibility. You can blame me if it goes wrong. You have to move things forward, but without tanking morale.
That makes sense. And he mentions that silent majority, right? People who might not argue but just want a decision made so they can get back to work.
Exactly. So many people just want clarity and direction. He also splits mandates into local, where you made the call and have the context, and foreign, which come from higher up or outside your area.
And the foreign ones are tougher.
Much harder. The why, the reasoning, it just doesn't travel well up and down the chain. It gets mangled, diluted. So you end up delivering news sans reasoning, basically. He kind of wonders, are the execs making these calls tyrants, or are they just surrounded by people who are bad at explaining things?
That's a really interesting question. And he suggests a simple follow-up after delivering news like that. What did you just hear?
Yes. Such a basic check, but so important. Did the message actually land, or did they hear something completely different?
Okay, moving into slightly more nuanced territory. Rands talks about subtlety, subterfuge, and silence as management chess. Subtlety seems straightforward.
Yeah, subtlety is about delivering hard news, like a tough review, in a way that the person actually hears and understands the core message, even if it's uncomfortable. It's an art form.
But subterfuge, that sounds bad. Like, you shouldn't be doing that.
It sounds shady, right? But his argument is, sometimes to do the right thing for your team or the product, you got to operate outside the lines. Go commando, as he puts it, maybe work around some bureaucracy. But the absolute key, he hammers this home, is keeping the intent honest. You use it for good.
So navigating broken processes with good intentions. Can you give an example?
He mentions a time where he agreed with his interaction design team's ideas, but they had to do some infrastructure work mandated from above. So he used a bit of maneuvering to keep their good ideas alive in the background while they did the required stuff. It wasn't about deceiving anyone maliciously.
Got it. Okay. And silence. Why is silence a tool? Managers usually feel like they need to be talking, right?
That's the trap. Rand says the best managers often lead by listening, by assessing. Don't be a professional windbag. Silence, especially in meetings, lets you gather data. You can sit back, like he says, at a profitable poker table, watch everyone else show their cards, then decide how to play yours.
That ties into another thing he critiques, managementese, that corporate jargon managers sometimes fall into.
Yeah, and the problem isn't usually that people don't understand the buzzwords. It's that they don't trust the person saying them. You hear the complaints all the time. Management's out of touch, all talk, no action, too vague. I don't even know what he's saying.
And his warning is pretty blunt. Slip too far into managementese and you're a few key metaphors away from sounding like a used car salesman. Confidence without substance just kills trust.
Exactly. It just becomes noise.
Mm.
Okay, so shifting from the manager's tools to understanding the people, he starts with something he calls the twinge.
The twinge. I like that term. It's that gut feeling, right? When someone's telling you something and it just feels off.
That's precisely it. Your intuition is pinging. And Rands insists managers have to listen to their twinges. You need to act on it, demand specifics, question the story.
And ignoring it is a failure. Why?
Because if you don't challenge it, you let what he calls lies, which might just be the storyteller's biased version of reality, not always intentional deceit spread. That unchallenged, slightly off story becomes the accepted truth, and that can cause real damage.
Listen to your gut. Push for clarity. Got it. This connects to how people bring things to you. He talks about the update, the vent, and the disaster.
Right. Common communication modes, especially in one-on-ones. The update is status. Okay, fine, but listen for the subtext. The vent is someone needing to blow off steam. Your job there. Just listen. Don't jump into problem-solving mode. Just let them get it out.
How do you know when a vent is done versus just becoming a repetitive rant?
He says you can usually tell. If they start just restating the same thing over and over without any new insight or emotion, it's probably tipped into rant territory. The initial release is the healthy part.
And the disaster.
That's when things are serious, the person is clearly upset, out of character, your internal alarm should be going off, needs immediate attention.
What about the opposite end of the spectrum, maybe? The Monday freak out, we've all seen those.
His advice here is pretty generous, actually. Give the person freaking out the benefit of the doubt. Usually there's a real point buried somewhere under all the frantic energy. Your job is to listen patiently, ask clarifying questions, and dig down to find that root cause.
Takes patience. Another tough one he describes is lost in translation. That total personality clash like his Wallace situation.
Yeah, where your usual people skills just fail.
Yeah.
Nothing works. The lesson there, when communication totally breaks down, is extreme caution. Listen super carefully, repeat back everything to confirm understanding, and assume absolutely nothing.
Sounds exhausting. And he concludes that section with a really nice line. People are the best puzzles you'll never solve.
It's a great way to frame it, isn't it? They're not bugs to be fixed. They're complex systems to understand, endlessly fascinating.
Which leads nicely into a specific group he talks about quite a bit. Managing nerds.
He clearly has a lot of affinity for nerds.
Yeah.
He says they value consistency and they fiercely guard their time and space to get into the zone.
The zone. That deep focus state where, he says, fucking miraculous things can happen.
That's the one. It's where the magic happens, the deep creative work. And interrupting someone in the zone, he says it's like knocking over a Jenga tower or yelling out the ending of a movie. It's incredibly jarring because the cost of context switching, getting back into that focused state, is huge.
So the manager's job is basically zone protection.
Largely, yes. Create calm amidst the chaos, build quiet spaces, be consistent yourself, and know when they need help, either because they're stuck or, crucially, because they're bored. A bored nerd is a dangerous thing.
He also points out that nerd snark can be a useful signal.
Sometimes. It can be a flag for inefficiency or wasted time, or it might mean they're stuck, like the disinterested or drifting nerd. But when they're engaged, let them chase those highs, those impossible problems. That's when they do amazing work.
And NADD, nerd attention deficit disorder. Does that relate to the zone?
Sort of the flip side. It's that tendency towards rapid-fire information, multitasking. But he stresses the key skill isn't the multitasking itself, it's the context, switch the ability, and the mental cost of shifting focus rapidly.
Okay, moving from individuals to groups.
Yeah.
Meetings. Rands has thoughts here too, I imagine.
Oh, definitely. Running a meeting isn't just, verbal tennis. If people aren't listening, they aren't engaged. He suggests tactics like asking direct questions, resetting with silence, just pausing, or changing the physical scene, like standing up or moving to a whiteboard.
He also has that cynical but practical guide to bailing on bad meetings. Agenda detection.
Right. First, figure out who's a player, has an agenda, and who's a pawn, just there, no players. He basically says, get the hell out, it's probably pointless. Then spot the pros, who own the issue, and cons, who are frustrated by it. What's the actual issue they care about? If you're 30 minutes in and can't even agree on the main issue, bail.
You can't just walk out, though, can you?
No. You need the perception of forward progress. You need to make the cons feel like something was decided or move forward. Otherwise, they'll just schedule another meeting. Then you can make your escape.
And the cast of characters you find in meetings? The meeting creatures?
Yeah, the archetypes, the anchor, the actual decision maker everyone looks at. But beware. The snake, the hidden anchor the supposed leader defers to.
Then there's translator Tim, explaining jargon, but maybe with bias. Patty Pointer, who just points out problems. Sally Synthesizer, who summarizes and finds the truth, but can get power-hungry.
And my personal favorite, Curveball Kurt, says stuff like, the sky is pancakes. Totally out there. You need a Tim or a Sally to figure out if Kurt's a genius or just irrelevant.
Those descriptions are painfully accurate sometimes.
Okay.
One more team dynamic. Incrementalists versus completionists.
Both vital, both focused on getting stuff done. Incrementalists want to ship now, focus on next steps. Might need help seeing the long game. Completionists see the whole picture, the perfect end state. They know what done right looks like, which can make them frustrated with baby steps.
But that tension is good.
He sees their arguments, let's get this done, versus let's get this done right, as a healthy, necessary debate for making real progress.
Okay, moving up a level from teams to the organization itself. Hierarchy, structure.
Right. Silicon Valley loves that flat organization idea. Minimal hierarchy, everyone has a voice. The challenge is when you do need leads or managers. Rands likes reframing it. It's not a promotion with a ticker tape parade, just a different job that needs doing.
But does flat really scale? He seems skeptical.
He raises the question, yeah. How does that truly distributed power and accountability work in a big company? It's tough. He also offers the organics versus mechanics framework, useful for understanding how people, especially your boss, take in information.
Okay, organics and mechanics. Break that down.
Organics gather info conversationally. They wander around, shoot the breeze. Seems unstructured, but they're soaking up context. Might miss details, so you need to give them structure. Mechanics need structure, data, lists. They might seem like micromanagers. You need to feed them data to make them comfortable.
So understanding your manager's style is key to communicating effectively.
Absolutely crucial. He talks about speaking truth, being blunt with coworkers, versus speaking the way, tailoring your communication for upstream, for your manager's style. Think your manager is awful, maybe you're just not speaking their language.
And then there are the scary switch hitters, who are both.
Yeah, the mechanical organics. Super organized, super informed, remember everything. Can be intimidating, might have hidden agendas.
He also slots managers into roles. Inwards, holistics, outwards.
Inwards focus on the team, the tech. Holistics are managers of managers, looking across teams, gathering info everywhere. Rand says these are the people often actually running the company through influence and accountability. Outwards focus on market, customers less discussed in these excerpts. A key problem he flags is agenda confusion. That's when a manager sees themselves as, say, a holistic strategist, but the rest of the org still sees them as just an inward-focused team lead. That mismatch is a problem for the manager, but if you see it, it's an opportunity to navigate things more effectively.
Okay, this has been a lot about managing others and the system. What about managing yourself? Personal growth, career stuff?
Definitely. For managers coming from engineering, his advice is stay flexible, change is constant, and keep your tech skills warm. Maybe not coding daily, but stay close, understand how things are evolving, swim in the developer pool to maintain that connection with your team.
He also really values something called the soak.
The soak. Yeah, I love this idea. Plant a seed, a problem, an idea, and just let it, well, soak. Feed it bits of information, let it tumble around in the back of your mind. The goal isn't instant reaction, it's letting an original thought emerge.
Why is that necessary?
Because you can't be creative if you're always just reacting. Soaking turns knee-jerk emotional responses, those flamograms, into considered strategic decisions. He also says asking seemingly dumb or basic questions is part of this. It feeds your brain and shows you care.
That's good advice. He also warns about Malcolm events.
Malcolm events. Those tiny, seemingly random things that somehow blow up and derail a whole project. The butterfly effect, basically. Often rooted in poor communication or a missed detail somewhere way back.
And the defenses.
Capture context, which is more than just version control. It's capturing the why behind changes. Good commit messages, notes, documentation, using your tools, your favorite apps to index your ideas and decisions, not just reactively tick off tasks. It builds organizational memory.
For big, overwhelming tasks, he suggests trickle theory.
Super practical. The key is just start, run one test case, write one paragraph, just take that first tiny step.
Why is just starting so powerful?
It bypasses that inner critic telling you it's impossible. It builds momentum, you gain confidence, and over time, you refine your process, you get faster. He admits entropy, chaos, always wins in the end, but trickle theory is about tidying your little corner of the world bit by bit. It's not futile.
Okay, what about when it all goes wrong? When the sky falls? Managing a crisis, which, he notes, is probably partly your fault anyway.
Yeah, he lays out a process, often overlapping steps. Step 1, the war room. Stop. Understand everything. Build a mental model of the situation. If you skip this, you make critical decisions blind, action without direction, feels busy, achieves nothing.
Step 2, the fix. Okay, develop a solution. But, and this is key, vet it. Bounce it off others. Find the flaws, the unintended consequences. This actually takes longer than just dreaming up the plan. Then share the plan with the people doing the work. Ask them, does this make sense?
Step 3, constant and consistent sky-propping pressure. This is your internal PR campaign during the crisis. You have to regularly, clearly communicate demonstrable progress, even tiny wins. Why? To fight the grapevine, the rumors, fear, uncertainty, doubt, lies, your message needs to be, we are applying constant, consistent pressure. Silence lets the FUD win.
And the hidden step 0, the most important one.
Before anything else, what precisely were you trying to achieve in the first place? Answering that helps prevent the same disaster from happening again. It's amazing how often that gets lost in the panic. He connects this need for proactivity to avoiding complacency, which he calls a job killer, using his Fez issue as an example.
Fez the person who's critical because they know something unique, but they've basically checked out. Low motivation.
Exactly. And Rand says if you let that happen, it's a management failure. Fixing it isn't a one-off chat, it's a constant effort. Complacency blocks that person's growth, and it creates a bottleneck, a black box that frustrates everyone else who depends on them. Eventually, they'll plot to work around or replace Fez.
Ties into that skill will idea. High skill, low will. Needs new challenges. Low skill, low will. You've got serious work to do as their manager. And he admits he failed with Fez, couldn't convince him growth mattered.
He contrasts this deep issue with annual reviews. Reviews are stressful, yeah, but they won't fix a fundamental complacency problem. If you only think about career dev once a year, Rand says flatly, you're screwed. Managing people like Fez is an everyday thing.
For people changing jobs, he offers a very practical resignation checklist.
Yeah, good, simple stuff. Don't promise work you can't finish, ruins your rep. Think about your network. Who do you need to keep in touch with? Identify your crew, the people you'd instantly start a company with, and make sure you maintain those bonds.
And absolutely resist sending that angry farewell email. It's just dumb, burns bridges. Oh, and don't work for your old company for free or cheap afterwards. Focus on the new gig.
His last point on transitions is insightful. The job interview isn't over when you get the offer. It's not really over until you've fully integrated and become part of the new team. It's an ongoing process.
Looking at it from the company side hiring, what does Rands highlight?
Resume needs more than facts. Needs a glimpse and a hook. Achievements, skills, something memorable. He calls it a declaration of intent, not just a list. Phone screen. Getting one is a big deal. As the candidate, prep for those open-ended, story-based questions. As the interviewer, pay attention to the feel, did we click? Always define clear next steps.
Interviews need solid technical assessment. He suggests finding a technical bully, someone good, who asks tough questions to really probe technical depth.
And crucially, always have a team consensus meeting after the interviews. Face-to-face or at least a dedicated call. Don't rely on email chains. People's opinions get shaped in that discussion, and the team reaches a collective view. The hiring manager decides, but should usually go with the team consensus.
Because hiring is inherently risky, right? Interviews are limited.
Exactly. You only get a snapshot. You won't really know how someone performs until, as Rands puts it, real stress shows up.
Wow. We have covered a ton of ground here, really diving deep into Rand's world. From that core idea, don't be a prick, through communication tools, understanding people like nerds and meeting creatures, navigating organizations, and really practical advice on personal growth, handling crises, and career moves.
It's definitely not abstract stuff, is it? You can feel the real-world experience behind it all. Decades in the trenches, leading teams, making mistakes, learning. That semi-fiction style makes it really engaging, but the wisdom feels very practical, very actionable.
And that central theme keeps coming back. Success, especially somewhere dynamic like tech, isn't just about the technical puzzles. It's maybe even more about the human ones. Understanding people, including yourself, managing those relationships, that's a really hard ongoing work.
Absolutely. It's the ultimate complex system.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. If Rands is right, and people are the best puzzles you never completely solve, how might focusing your energy on understanding them first, maybe even before the technical problems, fundamentally change how you build things, how you lead, and how you even approach your own career? Something to soak on, maybe?
Thanks for listening. Visit our library and subscribe below for more book summaries. This has been a Sprint Reads production.